It's Thursday, November 13th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Numbers reveal acts of violent crime are on the rise in some maritime cities. The world's fastest sailboats will race around Halifax Harbor next summer.
The temperatures continue to get colder. Looks like we'll be starting the weekend with some of the coldest of the season so far.
Live from our Maritime's News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. It was leaked yesterday. It was confirmed today. A New Brunswick mine, first announced years ago, is now a priority for the federal government as one of its nation-building projects. CTV's Laura Brown has the details.
We're referring to the Major Projects Office, Canada Nickel's Crawford project in Ontario, the Nouveau Monde Graphite Matawini mine in Quebec, and the Northcliffe Resources Sisson mine in New Brunswick.
And with that, the speculation is over. New Brunswick's Sisson mine is on the Prime Minister's list of nation-building projects, which means its financial and regulatory approvals could get fast-tracked, making the mine closer to a reality.
The Sisson mine in New Brunswick will produce tungsten, the strongest metal in the world, and it'll position Canada as a reliable supplier for steel manufacturing, defense, and protective equipment.
Premier Susan Holt said she pushed hard for this to happen.
With 10 projects now announced, New Brunswick's is on the list, and that's a testament to the efforts that our team has made.
Northcliffe Resources is the company behind the mine. The CEO told CTV News he is very proud and excited, hoping this means the regulatory and financial backing will guarantee the mine will be in operation by the end of 2029, or perhaps even sooner. The company received both federal and provincial environmental impact assessment approvals about a decade ago. The provincial one did come with some conditions. The start of construction deadline is next month, but Northcliffe Resources has asked for an extension. Holt said they're working with the company on ensuring those conditions are met.
It is likely that now with the support from the federal government and having these pieces fall into place, that we'll be able to give a little more time to get the next step of activity met to advance those conditions.
The mine site is about 100 kilometers by road north of Fredericton, located near Nashwauk Rural Community. The mayor's reaction, a bit lukewarm for now. Council is gathering up-to-date information on the Sisson Mine project and will provide comment once we've had the opportunity to review it fully. Protection of the Nashwauk and Tay River valleys remains our top priority. The company said there is an updated feasibility study underway. The hope is that the results will be released in the spring. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
A provincial park in Cape Breton will not become a golf resort. Cabot Links pitch to build a golf course at West Mabou Beach has been rejected, with Nova Scotia's premier weighing in. And CTV's Jesse Thomas reports it's a surprise victory for locals who've been fighting it.
Cabot's latest bid to expand its collection of golf courses into West Mabou Beach Provincial Park has been shut down again. Premier Tim Houston says the proposal by Cabot to build a third 18-hole golf course on parts of the protected coastal park is off the table, calling the company's request unreasonable and not in the public's best interest.
We listen carefully to Nova Scotians all the time. The pros, the cons, and we just try to wade through it. But at the end, as a government, we're just trying to make a decision: does this benefit Nova Scotians, and then is it worth taking to the next step? And this one never got. We'll get to the next step.
It's the third time Cabot has tried to develop in the area, and each time they've been met by strong opposition from the community.
I am surprised by the news. I know there's been a lot of pressure that's being put on the government.
A rally against the proposal was planned for this weekend. While residents view this decision as a victory, the community is still angry. They keep having to take on this fight to protect the coastal park that's protected under provincial legislation.
The residents of this area are absolutely outraged by the government's consideration of this proposal.
Opposition leaders say it never should have reached this point, arguing the province should have dismissed the idea from the start, given the park's protected status.
We need more certainty that we're not going to force Nova Scotians across this province into these fights for their provincial parks. We didn't get the assurance of that today.
It's pretty sad that the people of Mabou had to go through this yet again. I think the government got it wrong twice and the community got it right twice.
CTV News reached out to Cabot for comment on the Premier's announcement, but didn't hear back. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
A Nova Scotia Legion has commented after a member of Parliament was booed at a Remembrance Day ceremony. Chris D'Entremont, the longtime Conservative MP who crossed the floor to join the federal Liberals just last week, attended the ceremony in Annapolis Royal. Several people in the room booed when he rose to lay a wreath. The local Legion president issued a statement shaming the individuals, saying Remembrance Day is not a time for politics. There's a live look at Lunenburg right now, where it's 5 degrees and the lobster trap Christmas tree is up and it's bright. Caleb Mitchell joining us. It's about the only thing that's bright and perhaps warm right now.
Oh, I like the look of that lobster trap Christmas tree, though, and I'm sure we'll see more come up around the region over the coming weeks. But you're right, Todd. It is a chilly night. It is damp in some areas. Some rain and some showers still coming down. There's potential for some wet snow for a couple spots as well. I did want to start off, though, with an update on the Aurora, which has been very active over the last couple of nights. Here's the update for tonight. So last night was a strong G3 geomagnetic storm, so active Aurora spotted once again in the Maritimes. Tonight, though, that is forecast to be weakening to a minor G1 geomagnetic storm, which means the Aurora is unlikely to be observed, or if it is, it's going to be very, very faint near the horizon. Might even need some photography equipment in order to pick it up. And that's reflected in the planetary index for tonight. Typically, if we're going to have a chance of spotting the Aurora here in the Maritimes, we want to see it between 6 and 8. And tonight you can see it's between, well, it's in the 3s and the 4s. Taking a look at the cloud conditions, it is going to be cloudiest tonight around eastern and northern areas of Nova Scotia. That's where it's going to be rainiest as well. Prince Edward Island with some rain and some showers still to come. And around the eastern coastline of New Brunswick, a little bit clearer towards the west of New Brunswick, especially into the northwest of that province, and maybe partly cloudy conditions at times around parts of the west of mainland Nova Scotia. Here's a look at that wet weather that's coming down, and you can see it's rain at the moment across much of Prince Edward Island, into Cape Breton, the north shore of Nova Scotia, and into Cumberland and Colchester counties. But there, as temperatures come down tonight, there's a potential in the higher elevations for that rain to turn over to some accumulating wet snow. I'm going to bring you an update on that when I'm back a little bit later on. Todd.
Towards the end of the show, Kaylin, you've got a really great photo.
You asked for Aurora pictures. Our viewers delivered. I'll have one for you at the end of the show.
Right, from northern New Brunswick. Okay, we will see you for that. First, the full forecast, though. Cape Breton has had, speaking of weather, a lot of rain in recent weeks, but so far it's only put a dent in the problem of dry wells from the summer drought. There are still nearly 200 homes on the Cape Breton Regional Municipality's dry well list. That's according to an update from CBRM's head of emergency management. The area has only seen roughly 60% of normal rainfall, and it could take weeks before homeowners notice an improvement.
Visibly, it looks like things are improving, but it'll take a little bit of time before that water permeates through the soil, gets down into the water table, that people will finally start to hopefully see the benefits of the recent rainfall.
Bruce McDonald said the good news is that more rain is expected and no additional homes have been added to that dry well list. Road work is almost always a hassle, a necessary inconvenience to ultimately improve traffic. But construction on one Halifax area road is proving to be a real hardship for many people. Here's CTV's Emma Convey.
Bonnie Corbley has been fighting cancer for the past 10 years. Now she faces a new battle, not in the hospital, but on the road.
I had an appointment yesterday that would take me about 5 minutes to drive to. Took me literally an hour and 18 minutes. I know that because I used a stopwatch. It was extremely frustrating, and I was actually late for my appointment.
She blames construction, 2 repaving projects, one by the city of Halifax along St. Margaret's Bay Road, and the other by the province.
It's exacerbated by an HRM project on Trunk 3, so there's 2 projects going simultaneously, which creates some traffic tie-ups.
The province's Public Works Minister Fred Tilley calls it short-term pain, but those having to use these roads see it as a bit more.
A person I've spoken to who's a home care worker, she's struggling to get to her appointments, and she's actually getting late for them. There's people I've spoken to with young children They're having issues with their kids getting home from school. They're an hour or so late some days.
For local businesses like White Sales Bakery and Deli, traffic delays are driving customers away, cutting deep into their daily profits.
We're lucky to see about 10 people a day. Sales and foot traffic are down about 87%. We've had to come up with other ways to try to just keep the doors open.
Whether it's driving to the city to meet customers or cutting staff hours, this family has tried everything.
For the business itself, it's hard to keep things going. You know, you have your overhead costs, your supplies, your employees, propane costs, power costs, and then just at home, like I have a household to take care of.
A statement from the city suggests the municipal roadwork should be done in just over a week. Minister Tilley says that the paving for this project should be completed within the next 2 weeks, and the hope for the project is a week after. But in the meantime, local businesses are just trying to make it through. Emma Convey, CTV News, Upper Tantallon, Nova Scotia.
2 months ago, Nova Scotia Power said all customers may have been impacted by the cybersecurity breach. Now, many of them are getting notices in the mail confirming their personal information was indeed stolen. CTV's Callum Smith has the latest.
If you ask customers how Nova Scotia Power has handled a massive cyber attack back in March, opinions are that of frustration.
Poorly.
Terribly. They have failed.
The utility previously said 277,000 customers were impacted, potentially having birth dates and social insurance numbers among the compromised data, but then said 2 months ago all customers may have been impacted. Now, more and more people are receiving letters confirming their information was stolen.
I'm like, oh my God, this is 6.5 months later. And it was only dated to 31st, so it's not like it was lost in the mail. So I was quite shocked, and I thought, well, maybe they had another breach. I don't know.
For some, like this chiropractic clinic, the letter came with a different level of shock.
I just saw a letter addressed to my father, who had passed away over 18 years ago, and I was just in shock to see a letter from Nova Scotia Power addressed to my father, informing him of the cyber incident and about his personal information.
Monthly updates have been required to the Nova Scotia Energy Board. In response to the most recent update last week, the board said it will be referred to MNP to investigate further how the utility handles data and ordered Nova Scotia Power to pay any outstanding bills to vendors or suppliers, provide details about tasks taken to fully recover, and share an expected date of when services will be restored. But it's all left some customers feeling
Very vulnerable. I'm a senior. So, yeah, it's very concerning. I don't think they know what they're doing.
In the letter to customers signed by CEO Peter Gregg, he said he sincerely apologizes for the cyber attack and is working to ensure a similar incident doesn't happen again. For some, more steps are needed.
I'd like to see a government inquiry.
Nova Scotia Power did not make anyone available for an interview. Now, in a statement late this afternoon, Nova Scotia Power said this whole thing has taken time due to the data impacted and sophistication of the attack, encouraging everyone to use the free credit monitoring. As for David Dunn, the chiropractor you heard from in the story, the utility says it sincerely apologizes to his family for the error, adding that they've tried to remove former customers and closed accounts from the database, but acknowledges some may have been missed before the letters were sent out. Todd.
18 years, Callum.
You got it.
All right.
Long time.
Callum Smith in the News Center. Thank you. The union representing striking workers at St. Mary's University has announced a tentative agreement has been reached. Part-time faculty members are casting ballots in a ratification vote. Pay and job security topped the issues. A news release says the agreement includes higher salaries and increased vacation pay at the Halifax institution. The university says it expects suspended classes to resume Monday, pending the outcome of that vote. Canada Post plans to close many small-town post offices in the coming years. Now, people in one Cape Breton community are lobbying to have one Canada Post building torn down right away. CTV's Ryan McDonald tells us why.
The former post office in North Sydney has been one of the more infamous abandoned buildings in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality for more than a decade.
That's an insult to this town, that building, leaving it like the way it is.
The heavily graffitied building with a number of broken windows is right next to the cenotaph where the community's Remembrance Day ceremony was just held. It's also directly across the street from the Branch 19 Legion.
It's a disgrace And it's not really showing that there's much respect for the people that gave their lives for what we got today.
And although it's come to council, although we've had many discussions, it just stalls.
Councillor Earlene McMullen says the building is often broken into and set on fire. She adds that it's full of contaminants, including asbestos, but that over the years it has been difficult to get it torn down because ownership of the property keeps changing hands, and because the municipality can't afford the demolition and remediation cost, which she estimates at about $500,000. Now she has started a petition asking that it get dealt with once and for all.
If a petition was passed around and we had enough support from the community that we could take it back to council with the support of council, move it on to the other levels, and hope for some kind of financial backing.
While the current petition is about this particular building here in North Sydney, there are a few hundred other properties across the municipality that are on the CBRM's list of abandoned buildings. McMullen says while some of the other biggest eyesores ought to be dealt with too, she's trying to make the post office a priority because it's been a topic of contention her entire time on council.
We owe our veterans a lot more respect than to have an ex-federal building rotting and deteriorating right next to a monument like that and something with so much meaning.
She adds that if the building was to be finally torn down, she would like to see the land used as some sort of public space. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, North Sydney.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
New data reveals acts of violent crime are surging in small to mid-sized Canadian cities, and on that list, some places here in the Maritimes. CTV's Nick Moore has the numbers and what's behind them.
The new report from the Macdonald-Laurier Institute says violent crime is up in almost every urban center across the country. The report says that mid-sized and smaller metropolitan areas, including Halifax and Moncton, are matching the national trend of violent crime growth.
And we think that it's important that policymakers have this information.
Dave Snow is a co-author of the report, which has expanded in its second edition to include smaller cities. The report says violent crime in Moncton is comparatively high.
Moncton has the highest violent crime rate of these 20 cities, where every homicide is equivalent to every minor assault, right? That they're both counted as one in the violent crime rate.
Moncton has the 5th highest violent crime severity rate, an index where the most serious of crimes, such as homicide, are weighted to have a larger impact on the rate.
Which is still not good. So that is actually, to me, probably the most meaningful measure of how bad violent crime is in a community, because it doesn't count a homicide as the same as a minor assault.
The report says Halifax experienced a jump in all of the categories examined: homicide, robbery, aggravated assault, and sexual assault, along with the broader violent crime rate and violent crime severity rate, for which Halifax saw a 21% increase.
Clearly, violent crime has risen over the last 10 years.
Chris Lewis is CTV's public safety analyst and says social and economic issues are a root cause of many crimes, adding that law enforcement numbers are not where they should be.
A lot of police services don't have enough people anymore to meet the current needs with the evolving crime and more organized crime and technology needs, etc.
Regardless of political persuasion, let's be clear about what the data say. Violent crime is up. I think just about everyone in this country would agree that more violent crime is a bad thing. So what do we do about it? Let's get that conversation going.
Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
We're going to make this a web poll tonight, and we're asking this question: have you noticed an increase in violent crime in your community? Simple answers here, yes or no. And after 6:30, we'll look deeper into the report findings with author Dave Snow, who you saw there. And you can vote on the poll at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Everyone carries a load at some point in their lives, something that weighs them down, though few like the person our Avery McCrae met in St. John.
It's the question everyone in St. John is asking. What's with the fridge?
That is really a question that other people have been answering for me.
An idea that started as a mere joke between friends quickly grew into a movement. Now you can routinely find Jesse Wright parading through the streets of St. John with an extra 35 pounds on his back, raising the message of food insecurity.
The main tag, as you can see on the back, is no family should bear the weight of an empty fridge. The leap from it's a fridge to food security issues wasn't hard to make. And that's when people started asking, what's your email? What's your social media? Can I give you money? Where's the money going to go? And I hadn't thought of any of that.
In just a few short weeks, Wright has walked about 140 kilometers with the fridge in tow and has raised more than $1,800 for nonprofits who aid with food insecurity. Pulse was the first group to receive aid from Wright, with his donation helping support multiple food-related programs.
It is such a blessing. A lot of times we're understaffed, we're underfunded, and so much of our time is trying to find funding and ways to help, that this is just such a, it's not work for us.
Wright admits the fridge can be a load at times, especially after walking 10 kilometers in a single day. But it's nothing compared to the wait one goes through when figuring out where their next meal will come from.
We're walking down the street or we're driving down the road and we see tents and we see homeless people and we see drug users, and we want to do something about it, but we don't know where to begin.
Now Wright not only has his plan set, but a goal to raise $5,000 through his awareness campaign in hopes none have to bear the weight of an empty fridge. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
That is clever. Still to come, a chilly November night ahead with rain and snow showers for some. Kaylin will tell you who's going to get all that. But next, skipping across the seas.
There were millions of eyeballs from around the globe watching downtown Halifax.
After a one-year gap, the world's fastest sailors will be racing around Halifax Harbor as Sail GP returns. The details after this. It was the most successful stop on the tour the last time Sail GP raced in Halifax. Today, the Formula One of racing, sailing that is, unveiled plans for its return to the harbor next June. As CTV's Jonathan McGuinness reports, it promises an even bigger event.
After a one-year hiatus, the fastest sail race in the world is coming back to Nova Scotia.
It was the fan-voted #1 event last season, and we're looking forward to making it the #1 event next season as well.
In the summer of 2024, tickets sold out in 12 minutes. 330 on-the-water boat passes were also bought, both records for the event. An estimated crowd of over 50,000 filled the piers and shorelines along both sides of the Halifax Harbor for the weekend races. Seating has been added on the Halifax waterfront and George's Island for next summer's stop on the Sail GP calendar.
We were blown away by the support, the amount of fans that came out. You know, it was rainy, it was windy.
Shortly after tickets became available this morning, premier seating was snapped up. By late afternoon, only a few tickets were left.
Nothing beats it. It was so exciting. It was electric last year.
That electricity pumped an estimated $45 million US into the economy. With 3 more teams this time around, the financial return could be even greater.
There have been royal visits and Canada Games and things like that, but this was in a whole different league. There were millions of eyeballs from around the globe watching downtown Halifax.
Like in 2024, this is a one-year commitment. Officials with Sail Nova Scotia, however, are working on securing a multi-year deal.
We're looking to try to make Halifax one of the destination in Canada to come to for Sail GP.
The Halifax races are scheduled for June 20th and 21st, 2 weeks later than the last time. The team from Great Britain won that year. Their driver, Giles Scott, is now at the helm of North Star Canada, and he'll be hoping for a repeat performance, this time in front of a hometown crowd. Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News, Halifax.
That'll be good. Hopefully the weather's a little better than it was last time. All right, still to come tonight, a mix of showers and flurries for eastern areas tomorrow. Kaylin Mitchell has the details and the full forecast after this break. After some unsettled weather in Cape Breton this week, a fairly calm day as we soar over Sydney Harbour from Westmount, of course, to Sydney.
Areas of Cape Breton will continue to pick up some rain as we move through tonight and for tomorrow as well. And as we heard earlier, Todd, they still need the wet weather.
Yeah.
As do many parts of the Maritimes for that.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so I want to ask you about Sail GP. Jonathan mentioned they're moving it 2 weeks. If you were in the Halifax area a couple years ago, you remember it was not the best weather. Yeah. Everybody still turned out, of course. Will that 2 weeks, I mean, is that typically, is there a shift in there towards the end of June in weather systems? Or?
I mean, there can be. I mean, we're always trying to thread the needle when it comes to weather conditions and especially outdoor events here in the Maritimes. You know, late June, it's not bad. Temperatures start to warm up by then, hopefully make it more comfortable for viewing spectators. Wind conditions, I mean, a lot of times we have the wind around the Maritimes. Though,
I know.
It's very few that we have like still wind conditions for extended periods.
That's the thing about this race. You want sunny weather. You want it to be nice to be able to go and be a spectator, but you need the wind.
You do. I feel like it's a good time of the year that they chose.
I'm just going to put this in permanent ink.
Yeah. But
Galen says
he feels it's a good time.
Better time.
That's right. Well, it's a better time than it would have been today, that's for sure, because parts of the region today, as we take a look at a little bit of a snowfall outlook here, we're contending with some rain and some showers. The thing is, with that rain, as temperatures come down tonight for the higher terrain in northern areas of Nova Scotia, we turn over to some accumulating wet snow. What do I mean by the higher terrain? Well, you can see that little thin strip of darker blues getting painted there in the more mountainous areas between Spring Hill as well as Mount Tom. Environment Canada has a special weather statement out for that area saying that maybe up to around 10 centimeters of wet snow once it does turn over, and to advise people if anybody's traveling through the roads, that especially as they climb up into the higher elevations, that you may run into some winter driving conditions tonight into early Friday morning. So that statement talks about that potential for snow up in the higher terrain. It also mentions that overall there's going to be some additional rainfall amounts, or sorry, some rain totals by Friday morning between 20 and 40 millimeters, Cumberland, Colchester, and Pictou counties. Here's the wet weather showing up on our forecast timeline. So once again, this is wrapping in behind a low pressure system that stalled off the eastern shore of Nova Scotia. So it's coming in off the Atlantic and then back into the Maritimes. And as we take the timeline forward to around midnight, you can see the changeover to some blues around parts of Cumberland and Colchester counties. May even see a changeover from some rain to some wet snow around Moncton, the southeast of New Brunswick. That will persist into early Friday morning. As we move from Friday morning into Friday afternoon, what's left of the rain and the snow is expected to diminish to some lighter showers. And for Friday afternoon, the highest chance of showers will be around Prince Edward Island, the north shore of Nova Scotia, and Cape Breton, except up in the Cape Breton Highlands, where it could be flurries still. Winds in the forecast for tomorrow. Going to be out of the north, sustained 10 to 20 kilometers per hour with gusts between 20 and 40. It's going to be a cold to chilly night in the Maritimes, coldest in the northwest of New Brunswick there, lows between -5 and -8. Other parts of the Maritimes tonight looking at some fairly widespread low temperatures between 0 and 4 degrees. Highs in the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick between 0 and 4. Central and southern parts of that province with high temperatures that'll be around the low to mid single digits. For Prince Edward Island tomorrow, high temperatures of around 3 to 6 degrees. And in Cape Breton, high temperatures between 5 and 7, between 5 and 7 degrees for the north shore and eastern shore of Nova Scotia. Northern and central parts of the province for tomorrow with high temperatures between 3 and 6 degrees, 3 around Parsborough, 4 for Amherst, 5 for Truro, 6 for Halifax. In the Annapolis Valley tomorrow, Kentville, Wolfville, high temperatures around 4 degrees there. Middleton, same thing, near 4. Digby, near 4 degrees, 5 for Yarmouth, and a lot of high temperatures on the south shore of Nova Scotia between 3 and 5. And as we take a look at the 7-day forecast, that chilly air is going to be in place. Saturday is going to be one of the colder days over the next stretch, especially first thing Saturday morning. After that, on Sunday for New Brunswick, a mixture of snow and rain. There may be some accumulating snow in northern areas of New Brunswick from that Sunday weather system. Chance of flurries follows in behind for Monday, and then over to a mix of sun and cloud, chilly temperatures Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, cold start to the weekend, and then temperatures get a little bump up on Sunday because of a round of rain moving through. But as soon as that rain clears through, the chillier air moves back into place, so it's a chance of flurries after that on Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, a mix of sun and cloud, high temperatures around the mid-single digits. For Prince Edward Island, the forecast, cloudy periods expected on Saturday, and then turning over to a round of rain on Sunday. High temperature gets bumped up to 8 degrees, but back down to near 3 on Monday with a chance of flurries. And then it's a mix of sun and cloud expected Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. High temperatures, again, right around the mid-single digits. Todd.
I have yet to rake the leaves. That was going to be Saturday.
Well, you can do it on Saturday. It's just chilly.
Yeah, bundle up, right?
Yeah.
All right. Better than Sunday. rain.
That's right.
Okay. We'll see you at the end of the show. Thank you. Next, we'll talk about that crime report and what it means for the Maritimes. Then it's our nightly look at entertainment.
My name is John Mann, and my short film Popsy has been selected to screen at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, and I'm here to tell you all about it coming right up.
Okay, so coming up tomorrow, it's Flashback Friday, and we're going to have some throwback songs for you.
Yeah, and your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Canadian Curling Tryouts.
And at 7:30, you'll have a shot at $200 to shoppers.
As you saw earlier, the Urban Violent Crime Report has unveiled some distressing data for a few East Coast communities. Our guest tonight is Dave Snow. He's an associate professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of Guelph and a senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute and a New Brunswicker at that. And Dave, welcome. We're going to drill down a bit on the maritime communities in a second, but overall, your report has seen a jump right across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say, first of all, thank you for having me on. But in terms of that jump, we really see it when we look at changes in violent crime rates across the last decade. So we looked at 20 of the largest metropolitan areas in Canada using Statistics Canada data, the 18 largest, as well as Moncton and St. John's, to get more regional perspectives in there. And on things like violent crime and violent crime severity, we see over the last decade the rates up in 19 or 20 of the CMAs, and up by disturbing percentages in some of the smaller cities that we might not necessarily associate with violent crime, both within Atlantic Canada and outside as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks who live in what you classify as small to mid-sized cities like to think, well, that's a problem for the most part for the bigger cities, the Torontos, the Montreals, the Vancouvers, Winnipeg. But you mentioned it. You've certainly seen a rise in Halifax, St. John's, Newfoundland. Moncton might be a bit surprising.
Yeah. And some of the surprising things of the 20 census metropolitan areas that we look at, Moncton actually had the highest overall violent crime rate, and I believe the 5th highest violent crime severity, which is an index Statistics Canada uses, that the higher you are, the more severe your violent crime. Halifax and St. John's in particular, across many of the categories of crime we looked at, like aggravated assault, sexual assault, and robbery, not only experienced higher rates of crime relative to the other large and medium-sized Canadian cities, but higher rates of crime over time. So, for example, Moncton saw an increase in its sexual assault rate of 94% over the last decade. So those sorts of statistics in particular are really troubling to see. And I admit, as someone born and raised in Atlantic Canada, surprising to see.
That's a nearly 100% increase in Moncton in sexual violence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're seeing, I just sort of to add that the sexual assault, the sexual violence rates up across the board, again, in every Canadian CMA and up, not 2%, not 3%, but often in the double digits and sometimes higher.
And you're not looking at necessarily what the cause here, but rather the numbers in particular. But you can make a lot of assumptions by perhaps what might be behind some of these increases.
Yeah, absolutely. And with each particular crime, and I should say that we're looking at Statistics Canada police reported data. So these are what they call criminal incidents. So it's not necessarily something that ends up with a conviction, but this is what we usually use for crime data. For each particular crime, there can be different causes. So some have been quick to say that for sexual assault, for example, greater awareness since the Me Too movement, greater police focus on prosecuting sexual assault might be explaining some level of increase, but certainly at the rates we're seeing and informal conversations with people such as Crown prosecutors, there doesn't seem to be any question that the rate of actual sexual assault has increased considerably, and that the last decade as a time horizon is where we're seeing it in particular.
And could it be possibly even higher? We know there is some reluctance for victims to come forward.
Yeah, absolutely. In any category of crime where there's less chance of reporting to police. When you're looking at data that is reliant on police recorded crime, you're going to see lower numbers. So with sexual assault in particular, probably the lowest reported crime, then those numbers are almost certainly understating the level of criminal incidents that's happening compared to something like homicide, where, you know, we would think most homicides are reported to police, regardless of whether a conviction occurs. Something like sexual assault, police reported crime data tends to understate the actual severity of the problem.
So much is being made by politicians about things like bail reform, harsher sentences, but there's still some who will dismiss it as fear-mongering. Clearly, the numbers would say otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that what we do in this report is we say, here's the data. Here's 10 years of data, but going back 12 years, because we use rolling averages to smooth out, and so we don't let spikes in individual years influence the outcomes. But we say, here's the data, and you can decide what you'd like to do with it. It's unquestionable that over the last decade, we've seen considerable increases in violent crime across Canada's largest cities. It's also unquestionable that that has leveled off in a number of crimes in a number of areas in the last year or so. It's too early to tell if that's a trend, but that it's leveling off at a rate that's much higher than it used to be. And so different perspectives, people can say, okay, this means we need to invest more in community organizations, we need to invest more in the root causes of crime. Others might say we need to invest more in police services, we need to have tougher violent sentences for violent offenders. We're not saying in this report what we ought to do. We're saying these are the data, they're unquestionable. Yeah. We know that violent crime is increasing, so let others have a conversation about what to do with these numbers.
Dave Snow, it certainly will begin a conversation, no doubt. Thank you very much. Dave Snow of Fredericton, but in southwestern Ontario this evening. Thanks again. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with much more of your local news after this. We're on the scene with Katie Kelly. Entertainment news now. New Brunswick filmmakers headed to Hollywood?
Yes, Halifax-based director John Mann is the only Canadian selected for a special screening at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures.
Nice.
Finding Popsies happens to be a specialty of mine. You know, I actually just saw one just over there. Do you think it was your Popsy?
It's a dark tale with a sinister twist. Adapted from Stephen King's 1993 collection, Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Popsy's a short story about a young boy who is abducted from a mall, to surprising consequences to both his abductor and to him.
Making it was a full circle moment for New Brunswick writer-director John Mann, a lifelong King fan.
I think that it's like fair to say that he's like my literary idol, for sure.
In 2018, Mann was accepted into King's Dollar Baby program, a rare chance for filmmakers to adapt one of the author's stories for just $1.
I don't know any other artist, any other author, anybody else who is so willing to do that with their work.
Mann shot Popsy in his hometown of Fredericton.
We filmed it in the neighborhood that I grew up in, and like I said, like the neighborhood that I grew up riding bikes around, so that was just extra special as well.
Now it's headed to Hollywood. The Academy Museum of Motion Pictures is celebrating the history of the Baby Dollar program with a special short screening.
It has selected 6 films from the 47 years to screen that evening on the 19th, and Popsy was selected as one of them.
For Mann, the moment is still sinking in.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay as even keel as possible. Like, it's all been surreal. The fact that we're still talking about this movie 6 years later, and now it's being put on that stage to represent like Stephen King's contribution to cinema.
Mann says being the only Canadian chosen for the event adds another layer of pride.
There are so many things that I feel like the honor of being able to represent, which is Canadian filmmaking, Canadian horror, Stephen King in a sense, and it's just like the biggest privilege and honor.
And what a perfect setting. I mean, so many Stephen King's films are written about New England, the Maritimes, and...
Yeah, absolutely perfect. John is a very, very big Stephen King fan. He even has SK on his arm, and that was even before he got approved to get this adaptation. So, yeah, big fan. So he's just so well-deserved, so cool, so happy for him.
And how about getting that for $1?
$1.
Yeah.
I know. Amazing.
Good for Stephen King.
Yeah.
Summerside striking a chord for the coming year.
Yes, Music PEI has announced that the awards gala is heading back to where it all began, the Harbourfront Theatre in Summerside.
Last night I dreamed that I was sailing out on the Sea of Galilee.
You know that guy?
Lenny.
Lenny Gallant and Logan Richard lead the pack with 5 nominations each this year for the Music PEI Awards. The full list of nominees is available online. Music PEI Week will take place February 28th to March 7th of 2026, with events across the island celebrating PEI's music scene.
That'll be a good event. Thank you.
Welcome.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Here's what's on CTV a little later.
With Aaron and Peter.
60 seconds, 10 questions. If you can pull that off, you're going to win $1,000.
Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for the $1,000 Minute.
On the markets, this was a rough day for the Dow Jones. It closed down 900 points as nervous investors sent the market sinking pretty much everywhere. It was one of the worst days since April, when the American tariffs were announced. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez explains why.
North American markets are deep in the red today as investors sell off big tech. Investors want to take less risk now that the U.S. government is restarting. There are concerns about all the economic data that has been delayed, like the labor reports, which could show a weakening U.S. economy. That has investors pivoting to steadier stocks. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 71.28. West Texas Intermediate crude is up to 58.64. Western Canadian Select down almost $2.50 to 46.77. And the TSX sank 573 points, ending the day at 30,253. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Kayla Mitchell on what I'm going to call the winter deck tonight.
Yeah, it's chilly and breezy out here. I mean, you just step outside, you feel the temperature, and it's no surprise that we're looking at maybe rain turning over to wet snow for parts of the region tonight. Let's take a look at our viewer picture, though. There was some clear sky in parts of northern New Brunswick last night, and that did allow for some glimpses of that still active aurora borealis. And so our picture tonight is from Yolaine Thiroux, and I want to thank Yolaine very much for sending in this picture, and it's coming in from Trackety, New Brunswick. You can see the colors there of the aurora borealis. Trackety for tomorrow, yeah, it's going to be a chilly day. I mean, starting off in the morning, temperatures will be below the freezing mark, and the afternoon will be a mix of sun and cloud with a high temperature of near 4 degrees. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritime region. The remaining mixture of snow and rain in parts of Nova Scotia will be easing to showers as we go from the morning to the early afternoon. You can see morning temperatures in the Maritimes mostly ranging from a few degrees below to a few degrees above the freezing mark. And in the afternoon, we're looking at a mix of sun and cloud for most of New Brunswick, but cloudier conditions for Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. Likely still some showers or a few flurries around PEI and the east of Nova Scotia. Todd.
I knew if we asked, viewers would come through.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Theriault, for that shot. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, Kayla. And finally tonight, the first Russian humanoid robot powered by AI made, well, quite a debut in Moscow. Oh dear, down goes the champ. Set to the theme of Rocky, the robot marched onto stage, as you saw, before stumbling and landing on its face. The stage hands didn't make things any better, as you can see here, when they tried to cover it up. The developers claim the droid is capable of 3 basic human functions: moving on its feet, manipulating objects, and communicating. But we didn't quite get to that point. Oh my. You can watch this all day. There he goes. And that is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco will be here with our late update at 11:30. CTV News Atlantic.ca has the polls and our updates. I'm Todd Battis. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you right back here for the Friday night edition of your news. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.